Hello and welcome to Unit 8 and the final lecture on the series of lectures in this course, Supply Chain Risk Management. Everything we have discussed up to this point is all geared towards one thing: ensuring that the supply chain is sustainable. So this unit is achieving a sustainable supply chain. If you know the risk, you understand it, you are able to analyze it, you manage it, you put in mitigation strategies, and at the end of the day, it does not allow your supply chain to continue to exist. It is all useless. So we say that management principles applied throughout the supply chain is geared towards ensuring that businesses are competitive. How do they become competitive? If they are able to respond efficiently to customer demand. That means that the application of such modern management philosophies like just-in-time, lean production, efficient consumer response should lead to responsiveness, more flexibility, and it should enable the supply chain to compete in the global market, not just in its environment alone. If you adopt or employ these modern management philosophies and they don't lead you to building a supply chain that is flexible, that is more responsive, and that can compete in the global market, then whatever you have done can be described as useless. So, the level of sourcing today, if you look at the geographical scope of sourcing, of supplies, and the wider distribution of finished products, the way it is today, you realize that it is extending supply chains, both in the upstream and in the downstream. So you can have an agent in Ghana sourcing. So I have, say, UPS. UPS receives parcels from almost every part of the world. Meanwhile, these companies also have people they deal with to be able to generate their parcels. And when UPS receives these parcels, UPS is also supposed to what? Make sure it gets to the final customer. As a result, UPS may have several outlets or work through agents who will get. So it has made the supply chain very long. It has extended it, creating several levels or several nodes. So if you must think sustainability, then you have to know that all this has to be taken into account. Remember that the whole concept of moving to global sourcing is just for the potential savings in purchasing, in manufacturing, and in labor costs. So you find that some organizations are relocating from their countries, their advanced countries, to China, where labor is believed to be very cheap. Some are relocating to Africa, where labor is cheap. Because in their own home countries, manufacturing costs will be high. So they come here, produce, and take it back to their country to sell. So whatever strategies you adopt for sourcing globally, the principal aim is savings. If you source from abroad and you pay too much, then perhaps you are better off sourcing in Ghana. Sometimes the only limitation that some Ghanaian companies have is that what they need cannot be found on the local market. Then we say that demand for freight transport too continues to increase. And it is increasing because supply chains want to be more. In fact, businesses, when I say supply chain, sometimes you should know that is a business itself. Supply chain, that's why Christopher said competition is not between companies, it's between supply chains. The organization's survival is based on its supply chain. If the supply chain is sick, the organization will be sick. So demand for freight transport continues to increase, and the simple reason is that the supply chain is becoming more responsive, or organizations are moving towards the responsiveness strategy, where companies and customers are able to place orders and the orders are delivered in record times. We also want the supply chain in its responsiveness to be more reliable and above all be efficient. Remember that efficiency and responsiveness are two ends of the pole, but now organizations are not looking at them like that. We are pulling them to the middle. So we are wanting to achieve responsiveness with some satisfactory level of efficiency. You can't say because your strategy is responsiveness, if you ignore efficiency, it is okay. You cannot also say that your strategy is efficiency. Therefore, if you ignore responsiveness, it is okay. No, you cannot do that at all. So all these are becoming possible because e-business transactions too are growing. So we say that reverse logistics has been helping to alleviate some of the environmental and social concerns too. Organizations are now going beyond just pushing the products to the market, but they are taking steps to also mop up the waste that their products create on the market. So, what is this business of sustainability? When we talk about sustainability, we are saying that we are looking at our responsibility to proceed in a way that will sustain life, that will allow our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to live in a friendly, clean, and healthy world. So whatever we do today must not jeopardize the survival of future generations. However we organize our supply chain, however we achieve the supply chain success, it should not be at the expense of the comfortability of future generations. That is why the concept of green supply chain is gaining grounds. Green supply chain is, in a simple term, just ensuring that whatever you do by way of supply chain activity must have the environment in mind, to make sure that the way you go about doing it does not in any way create difficulty for future generations. So, sustainability is a long-term cultural, economic, and environmental health and vitality issue. It emphasizes long-term because it attempts to link together the importance of social concerns, financial concerns, and environmental well-being. It should not be the case that organizations are only concerned about what they will get financially. They must also pay attention to the social issues that come up as well as the environmental issues that come up. So, you can see sustainability also as a process by which organizations manage these concerns we have talked about, the financial concern, the social concern, and the environmental concern, as an obligation. They are not doing it as pastime. They are ensuring that they consciously are directing, organizing, collaborating all these social issues, their own financial concerns, the environmental risks that their actions create. So normally, this we reduce this social, financial, and environmental to 3 P's. The people for social, so we have social concern. So we have sustainability, coming to deal with social, financial, and environmental. And then this comes to people, this comes to profits, and this comes to the planet. Should I make profits when people are dying, as some people are wanting to do with hand sanitizers in this time of global coronavirus pandemic? Should you destroy the environment because you want to make profit? Cut trees anyhow because you have orders to make dual desks. You don't care whether the way you cut the trees destroy the forest or not. We cannot proceed like that. So we can say that in simple terms, sustainability is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future to meet their own needs. That is why sometimes I am amazed at some of the decisions our leaders take. It is as if we never think of the future generation. Because sometimes I have sat down to wonder, how is it that universities across Ghana did not build more hostels when they know very well that populations will be going up and there will be the need to house more students? Today, students are renting all manner of spaces in the name of hostels, and landlords are killing some of these students. They charge you for a whole year, 12 months, and as soon as the university goes on vacation, they are telling you to leave. Meanwhile, your 1 year is not up. Look at Electricity Corporation. Every now and then you hear them say that it is because their equipments are obsolete. Oh, the transmission lines there is a 30% waste in it. What? Weren't these things new at some point? At that time, the money that these new things were generating, what investment did they go into? You hear that we have given up cocoa, syndicated loan, 10 years. You hear, oh, we have gone for this bond, 30 years. We have gone for this bond, 100 years. So right from now, we are tying the hands of future generations, even before they are born. Because if you are here today and you are taking a loan that will take Ghana 100 years to pay, are you not tying the hands of future generations? That means that whether they like it or not, they are going to continue paying debt in perpetuity. 100 years is no small time. And at that time, I was amazed to see some Ghanaians even supporting such a decision. How? Don't tie the hands of future generations. They may come and want to actualize the Ghana Beyond Aid. They may come and not want to borrow. Why must they then continue to pay debt? 5-year debt, 10-year debt. That one, we are all hoping and praying that we get 10 more years or more to our lives. So that one we can say it is within our lifetime. But I don't think any government should even go for a 30-year loan or 50-year loan. If you are 70 years today and you are going for a 50-year loan, you see, would that not make you 120? How many of us will see 120 years? In fact, some people don't even want the 120 because by the time you are 120 years, you are next to a vegetable. Your usefulness is reduced. There's a triple bottom line in this definition. And you find that first, we must think of profits, the economy. Because don't forget that our livelihood and financial security is based on the profitability of businesses. So we cannot do anything we are doing devoid of profit. That's one leg. But what we are doing also should not lead to pollution, climate change, and depletion of scarce resources. When I discovered that the mining of gold started at Obuasi in 1884 thereabouts, I felt sad. Go to Obuasi and you will see that it is a shadow of itself. Obuasi has nothing to show that money, gold, has been dug from it for the past 100 years. We have handed this gold to foreigners, and foreigners have benefited from it, built their countries, and we are where we are. Isn't it time that we left the gold alone? If we can't find any reasonable way of mining the gold, let's leave it. Let's leave it so that future generations will come and perhaps think better than us and then make good use of the gold. So we are giving away bauxite, we are giving away gold, we have given away the manganese. The manganese at Takwa, we have given that away to Chinese. What is wrong with us? Are we just thinking of profit only? How are we going to sustain them? How are the future generations going to sustain themselves when we are not leaving them industries? We are not leaving them good roads. We are not leaving them any housing scheme. Even light and water is a problem. And then the natural resources that they will have used to take care of themselves too, we are dashing it away. You cannot understand. We are arresting our own people. I agree. As for anybody who endangers a water body, we need to arrest them. So are we saying that we cannot teach our people how to mine the gold and mine it very well? Wouldn't it be better? Then finally the people. Poverty reduction. Why are we worried about locking down the nation? When the health experts are telling us that at this point, locking down the nation is what is necessary because of the coronavirus pandemic. But we are afraid to lock down the nation because we know that we have a very big chunk of our population who are living from hand to mouth. They are able to buy only the things they can eat today. What they will eat tomorrow is in the hands of God. So if you lock them in the house for 2 weeks, how are they going to feed? So the people are poor. We are damn rich, and yet we are poor. When I hear people say we are a middle-income country, I laugh. Travel beyond Kumasi and see the nature of the road and the houses people are living in. Go to the small villages and towns, and you have to slap somebody if the person says we are even a middle-income country. Middle income what? Go to the countries that are real middle income and see whether you find the kind of abject poverty that we find our people in. Come on. Look, improvement in even working and living conditions. How many strikes have we seen in the past 20 years? What have we done to improve the life of the people? Now we say we are even banning second-hand cars so that you have to buy new. What scheme has the government put in place to ensure that people can even buy new cars with loans? Loans that can be payable, not the kind of loans that the banks are ready to give us. What has the government done to want to ban cars? What will the government do with the people at Magazine, Aboshokai and the rest? If all of us are able to buy new cars, what will those people do? What training, what remedies have we put in place to make sure that people at magazine, and all these mechanic shops are dotted across the country who take these cars we bring in and fix them for us to be able to move. Now, you want to take the accident cars out, and then you are saying, sorry, I meant accident cars, not second-hand cars. Accident cars. The accident cars create jobs. We can pick some classes of accident cars and say that if the accident is this nature, then it shouldn't come into the country because it will just come and be parked, and it creates a lot of problems for everybody. For that we can do, but the way we are moving this country, you will be wondering whether or not these three things really come to our mind anytime we have to take a decision. Now, almost everybody is thinking about their winning. It is all about winning, winning, winning. What I'm saying does not apply to only this government. It applies to several governments. Winning, winning, winning. It's all an agenda of winning. How to win the election. You build infrastructure and people tell you, are we going to eat infrastructure? Without the infrastructure, where is the country? What kind of thing is this? Most of the bad roads that are in Kumasi, when I became sensible, right, I went to secondary school in 1986-87 academic year. From that time till date, some of them are still rough roads. Come on. What is this? So, what legacy are we leaving for the future generation? We are giving away all the natural resources and we are not building. You can just see the importance of this. I know you can see it in the slide, but I want to draw it again because what is there does not create. This is how it is. So we have economy, where you are thinking about your profits. We have the social, where you think about the people, and we have environmental. So if we must achieve sustainability, all the three. So this is sustainability, where you are able to balance the demands of the economy, the profit makers, the demands of the people, and then the demands of the environment. If you are able to balance it, then you are on your way to achieving sustainability. What are the socioeconomic statistics in Ghana? You will cry. First, in 1950, the world was 2.5 billion. By 2004, we were 6.4 billion. As at 2001, the estimated population of the world is between 1 to 12 billion. So that means that the average growth rate in the world is 1.25%. That is 219,000 people per year. The growth rate of Ghana, the average growth rate of Ghana is put at 2.8%. That means that the population of Ghana stands the chance of doubling every 30 years. More or less. Because this is an estimate. So, economic growth is key and is very important. And we must work at improving the lot of the people. When you provide infrastructure, when you provide the enabling environment, then we can build a solid nation. I can tell you We are not, many of our people are not yearning to go to the US, to the France and the rest, because they think that the money there is any better than the money in Ghana. But the infrastructure and the working systems there is what makes these countries attractive for you to want to go. And we can build the same infrastructure and the same systems here. We know many people live on less than $3 a day. And do look at these statistics. And the growth, look at the growth. Pay attention to this map very well. And you will find that those that are growing at less than 1% are about the richest. Look at Europe. I don't know if you can see Europe. Europe is there. And then Russia, Iceland, then America. They are growing at less than 1%. Then those who are growing between 1.0 to 1.9, Canada, the Saudi Arabians, and people in the East, Australia, Brazil, Peru. But look at Africa, where poverty is the order of the day. Can you see any country growing at less than 1%? The only 3 countries you will see, I wish you could see this. Let me see if this one can point. Oh. Just look. Look at the map very well. And you look way up around where Libya is. And you see that Mauritius is there, a very small country. Then you look around Cameroon. And you see Gabon. Gabon there. Then come down to where South Africa is. And you see, I think that is Zambia or so. Then you have a small country, Malawi, in there. Just about 1, 2, 3, 4 countries out of the, is it 58 or what African countries are growing at less than 1%. The rest of us are above 2. Is it good to grow your population? For me, yes. But are we putting the necessary systems in place? Are we putting the necessary infrastructure in place to make sure that this population is sustained? I don't think so. So, an increase in the capacity of a country to provide for its people more goods, more service is economic growth. So, in Africa, we boast with GDP. Our GDP is this. Our GDP is this. We ignore economic development because no matter what you do, if what you do does not improve the lot of your people, it does not mean anything. So we have the GDPs and the GMP. Okay. This is gross domestic product. Those of you who don't know, this is the production of all goods and services. Or you can say the market value of all goods and services produced in the country. It doesn't matter who produced it. Foreigners, citizens, whatever. Once that production is done in your country, it is counted as part of your GDP. So when people are announcing big GDPs, it doesn't mean anything. Then we have the GNP. The GNP, the gross national product. That is the production of your citizens. So we get what our citizens produce from the various countries where they are, and then we take away what other citizens have produced in our country. That will give us GNP. So GDP minus the production of, that's export and import. So this is production of citizens everywhere or outside the country. And this is production of non-citizens. So when we take away the production of non-citizens and we add the production of citizens from across the world, then we will get our GNP, gross national product. Nobody mentions this. I don't know how many of you mention it, because they know when they mention it, we will look bad. Because that growth we are talking about is just growth in numbers. Because much of it is to foreigners. Then the one that is used to rank countries is the income per capita. That is your GDP divided by your population. So when foreigners come here and they produce, we get a very big GDP. Then we divide it by our population, and you see our GDP is very big. And then we begin to, meanwhile, people are dying of poverty. The challenge that we have in Africa and in Ghana is that the growth we are even talking about is not translating quickly to the living standards of the people. So we are achieving growth without development. So we are achieving growth, economic growth, but we are not achieving economic development. Because for economic development to be achieved, that growth must have an influence on the living standards of the people. Let you and I be sincere to ourselves. Has the living standard of Ghanaians improved any significantly? For the educated few, yes. But for the masses, no. And we have reports from the World Bank and other external bodies telling us or warning us that the gap between the rich and the poor in Ghana is widening. It tells you that we have to look at that, our economic growth again. That GDP business economic, we have to stop. I have achieved this GDP, I have achieved this GDP. What is the use of a big GDP that does not influence living standard? It is useless. It is paper. So you see political parties arguing over who has achieved the biggest GDP. Nobody is talking about who has influenced the life of the people the most. That is what we should do if we are going to think sustainability. Remember, sustainability has 3 legs. Economy, the profits. It must reflect in the people. Why should somebody finish university today and even rent a place to lay the head? It's a problem. Everybody expects that when you finish school, you should fend for yourself. Meanwhile, the system is not making it any easier. Why? Can't we build a lot of affordable housing? When chiefs decide to sell their land, can't the state buy it and build affordable houses? Look at the affordable houses they said they have built. One of it is 90,000. That's going on for one. The last time I checked, they said one of it is 90,000. You will not even get it to buy. How they are selling it, only God knows. But the issue is 90,000. Meanwhile, you are paying somebody who works for GES and has risen to the rank of director, 2005. I don't even remember whether that is the take home or the next. 2005. You are paying somebody 2,500, and you are telling him that you have built an affordable house for him to buy at 90,000. If you don't expect this person to be corrupt, where is the person going to get that 90,000? Because the 2,500 cannot take the person home. That means that at the end of the month, the person exhausts the money. I'm talking about people who are not corrupt. By the end of the month, the 2,500 is finished. So when is this person expected to save the money to buy the 90,000 house? And this is a person who has risen through the ranks to director. Those of you familiar with what I'm saying, you know that you cannot be a director for anything less than 15 years of work. So after 15 years of work, you cannot even buy a house that is 90,000. Of course, if you say 90,000 is too much money, I won't agree with you. But given the kind of salaries we are paid, 90,000 is not affordable. So if the government wants to let it reflect in the lives of the people, let the government create a mortgage so that those who are interested in it, those who think they can afford it, go for the mortgage and they are able to buy this house. In fact, this is 2-bedroom. I don't know how much the 3-bedroom and the, I think it's from 90,000 to 156,000. Can you imagine? Is it too much money? I don't think so. Is the system making it too much money? Yes. The system is making it too much money. Because to be able to afford that kind of house, you have to be corrupt. Because you have to come and tell me how you spend all your money and how you are able to save that 90,000. So you see many people moving around. They are driving cars they cannot buy. Because they have they have avenues through which they can make money from people who they shouldn't take money from. These are statistics about countries and the kind of per capita income they have. I haven't seen Ghana. The most developed countries in the world, US, Canada, Japan, Australia, most of them have GDPs beyond whatever. Developing countries, 1.2 billion people. So look at the developed countries, so all of them are 1.2. We, those who are poor, we are 5.2 billion. And we account for 81% of population growth. You see, this kind of statistics make it look like having children is bad. But having children is not bad. Europe is struggling. Today, US and Europe are allowing people, they are coming out with special lotteries and visa things so that they can take the best from our time. You can imagine. So, we say that economic development, look at the population, the growth, the wealth and the income between developing countries and developed countries. They account for 19%, we account for 81%. Nobody will look at these statistics and think that giving birth is good. So they will tell you that not having given birth is the best, but we all know it is not. Many of them are very miserable people, even though they live in very developed environments. So that is an issue. Sorry about that, and welcome back. We're just looking at a few statistics. Look at the resource use. Whereas the developed people are using 88% of the resources and account for 19% of the world population. 81% of us are using 15% of the resources, 12%. So you can just tell the reason why there is an influx towards the developed countries. And so some of us are moving to become second-grade citizens of the advanced countries. Now, as far as economic development is concerned, there's always a trade-off. It is bringing there's the good side and there's the bad side. And the good news is that Global life expectancy has doubled since 1950. People are growing much older. People are not dying early. Infant mortality has also reduced significantly. In fact, as at now, it is almost close to zero. Food production has gone ahead of population growth since 1978, except that in some countries, food production has gone below population growth. The country is growing more than they produce, so they have to import to survive. Then, air and water pollution has also gone down. What are the bad news? Number of people living in poverty has dropped by 6%. But the bad news is that life expectancy is 11 years less in developing countries than in developed countries. On the average, we die around 55 to 65 years. But you go to other countries and you find a lot of people who are 78, 80. The reason why Italy is seeing a lot of deaths with this coronavirus, a number of experts have attributed it to the fact that Italy has the most aged population in Europe. And you know, older people have weaker immune systems. And so, as soon as they are attacked by the virus, they are not able to survive the reduction in ability to breathe. Infant mortality rate in developing countries is still 8 times higher. In fact, in developed countries, it's like no child even dies before 5 years. If there are, very few. But in developing countries, it's very common. We give it to God. Environmental effects of agric is limiting food production. And these days in Ghana, galamsey is even you go to a cocoa farm, a plantain farm, and these galamseyers have come to dig it without any respect for this farmer. They don't think. And that is why I feel pain about Ghanaians. We are ready to bring foreigners. We are ready to support Chinese who will come and do things without any respect for any of our laws. They dig where they shouldn't dig. They dig beyond where they should dig. In fact, when you hear on radio how people complain about the way the galamseyers came to destroy their farms, you will be surprised. I have a cocoa farm that is giving me cocoa every season. Then you come and tell me, oh, I'm cutting down the trees and I'll give you 300 cedis per tree. How long will the 300 cedis keep? That is very, very painful. Air and water pollution levels in some countries are still too high. That's why we die. In fact, in most parts of Ghana, even the water is not even available. The available water is water that is a pond, where you go and fetch. If you don't treat it well, you drink whatever is in it. We are not ashamed. And you have people traveling there to go and do campaign for votes. Half of the world's population try to live on less than $3 a day. That is painful. Well, many people lack access to adequate sanitation, enough fuel for electricity, drinking water, adequate healthcare, enough food. Look at the statistics. And you know that even in terms of the economic, we have not gone anywhere. Let's come to the environment. And you'll be amazed that in this environment are resources. Some resources are perpetual. They are there. Others are non-renewable. Once they are exhausted, that's it. Now, we also have the renewable ones. So, fresh air is renewable, fresh water is renewable, fertile soil is renewable, plants and animals are renewable. Because if you pollute your air, there are things you will do to clean it. If you pollute your waters the way we have done with our rivers, there are things you will do to clean it. The same applies to the farmer. If the soil loses its fertility, you can apply fertilizer. So these are renewable things. And then we have solar energy. The sun will shine until the world is folded. Until God destroys the world, the sun will always shine. winds will always blow, water will always flow. However, when you look at oil, once a country exhausts its oil, that's it. Natural gas. So every time they tell you the quantity of natural gas there. Once you dig ore, that's it. Metallic, gold, copper, they are all there in quantities. When you finish digging them, that is it. Then we have the non-metallic ones, the clay, the sand. All of them are not renewable. Once they finish, they finish. Now, so we say that the perpetual ones are renewed continuously and they can be renewed on a human scale. The renewable ones can be replenished fairly quickly, but the non-renewable ones have only fixed quantities. Once they are gone, they are gone. So, if we have to sustain, then we have to make sure that when we deplete or degrade, we introduce the remedy. So, a sustainable yield, the highest rate at which a renewable resource can be used without reducing its supply, that is sustainable. Now, for environmental degradation, is when we exceed the natural replacement rate. For example, if it will take you timber 30 years, if you plant timber today and it will take 30 years, and yet you are depleting your timber at a rate that cannot be replenished within the 30 years, it means there is environmental degradation. Because over time, there will be time that you will finish cutting when these ones have not even grown to replace what you have cut. Look at groundwater, water pollution. We can pollute and eventually there will be no clean water again. This fight over Galamsey came as a result because experts started warning us that if we are not careful, a time is coming in Ghana where we have to import water because we will have polluted all the water bodies. The painful thing is that the Chinese who have helped us to do that will now go back to their country and enjoy its development. The money they have taken to their country, whatever they have built, they are now going to enjoy it. Then you and I and our children and grandchildren will be here importing water. And we don't think. The average Ghanaian does not think. Once he will get money today, that's it. Nothing else matters. That is why I commend the government for the fight. It is my hope and prayer that future government will come and sustain this fight. We need to fight it, but I don't think we are fighting it the right way. Let us write to the Chinese embassy and warn the Chinese that should we catch any Chinese engaged in Galamsey, we are not going to hand him over to the Chinese government for punishment. We are going to punish them here, and we are going to punish them with death. So we begin to put it on their visa. You can come here, engage in legitimate business, not illegal one. So if we catch you in illegal mining, your punishment should be death. And we are not going to hand you over to any government. When I took my visa for Malaysia, it was on it. Trafficking drugs carries the death penalty. We can also put it on our visa. Engaging in Galamsey carries the death penalty. So that anybody coming into Ghana with the intention of coming to do Galamsey will think twice. As for our people, we can be whipping them and beating them when we catch them. But we will not allow any foreigner. I can tell you Galamsey has been there for a very long time, except that it never destroyed any water body because they were using local tools, cut holes, digging axes and the rest. Then, bam, foreigners came and now we are using excavators. One excavator can destroy a whole city in no time, a land the size of a city in 3 days or in 1 week. You go and there's a very big hole suddenly. No, we cannot let that happen. We need to deal with it. I commend the government for dealing with it. I pray that future government continue and we should fight it the right way. Let's warn the Chinese. Let's warn the Chinese through their embassy. Let us put it on our visa that engaging in Galamsey carries a death penalty. And let's start killing the people. who will refuse, because we cannot allow the individual interest to override the interest of current generation and future generation. Now it is difficult for you to see a river body that is not polluted through galamsey. What kind of life is this? Then there's the tragedy of the commons, and that is by Garrett Hardin. And he said this way back in 1968. That is to say, if I do not use this resource, somebody else will. And the little bit I use is not enough to matter. Because after all, the resources are renewable. So this is the graduation of renewable free access resources. So anybody, I live in a community, because there's forest around me, I get into the forest and start catching whatever I want. If Ghana had not been very serious with chainsaw operation was seriously getting us to the point where we will not even have any virgin forest left. Every forest will be secondary. We used to have 35 million cubic hectares of forest cover. Now it has reduced to less than 5 million. And we are not even, what we are planting has not been able to reclaim even up to 10%. What is pollution? It is the presence of substances at high enough levels in the air, water, soil to threaten human or living organisms. Every human being or all living organisms have a certain tolerance level for pollution. Our body can contain it. The antigens in our body and then the red blood cells will help us fight it. Either red or white, I'm not sure. But bottom line is that we have the system in our body to help us fight some of these pollutants. But when it gets to a level that is beyond what your body can control, then it can be described as pollution. So most pollutions are unintended byproducts of useful activities. People drive cars to move people around, and they end up polluting the environment. People set up factories to enable them to produce products that will make the life of people easy, but they end up destroying the environment. All of that is there. As for the effect of pollution, it is enormous. There is disruption, there is degrading of life. The systems that support human beings become less, and human beings will have to scramble for them. Can damage wildlife, health, and property. When there's a fire outbreak, when there are strong winds, and there are no trees to help hold these winds, you can imagine the damage they do to our property. It's nuisance. So you can have noise, smell that you can't contain, blurred vision. What are the sources? We have point sources, that pollutants that come from one single source, and non-point sources, pollutants that are dispersed and often very difficult to identify. Look at this, is a runoff from rain. It is carrying things everywhere and from every place. How can you deal with such a pollution? But look at this, it is coming from one plant. Therefore, if there is the need to deal with it, we shut this plant, and that's it. So, what are the major environmental problems? We have air pollution. We have biodiversity depletion. Food supply chain problems. Water pollution and waste pollution. Examples of this have been given in this chart. Then we come to environmental and resource problems. We say that there are 5 root causes for our environmental issues. Rapid population growth requires that we produce more. And once we produce more too, it means we will compromise the environment. Unsustainable resource use. We are depleting at a rate faster than we can replace. Poverty. When people are poor, anything and everything is okay. It is very difficult to get them to appreciate that they shouldn't do what they are doing. when elephants were being killed in Central Africa, in one of the countries, eventually they had to decide that if you kill an elephant and you are caught, they will kill you too. When the elephant population was endangered. Now the world UN has come out with a way of identifying endangered species so that you can't use poverty to keep killing them, not including the environmental cost. Remember that every transaction cost should be comprised of private cost plus social cost. Private cost is the direct cost of doing what you are doing. Then the social cost is the cost of the things that what you are doing can bring about. But you see that a lot of the time we concentrate only on the private costs at the detriment of social costs. When this happens, you know, during transportation, we talked about it. People tend to overproduce because their capital allows them to produce more because they are not taking care of social costs. Because if total cost was 12, it may come from 8 plus 4. Or 8, if this is 16, 8 plus 8, just for the benefit of. Now, if is this, then it means you can production will be equal to 1, because that will be 16 over 16. But if the private man is allowed to pay only this, then production will be equal to 2. Production will be equal to 2, because it will be 16 over 8. And this is the overproduction. Because you are producing 2 when you should actually be producing 1. And we are trying to manage and simply nurture with too little knowledge about how it works. That is why research is key. Because it is research that tells us how it works. We are wanting to manage without full knowledge. That is dangerous. So what is our greatest environmental problem? Disease, as in the corona, overpopulation, water shortages, climate change, biodiversity loss, poverty, malnutrition. All this will always lead us to do unconventional things, and that will affect supply chain sustainability. Remember that overpopulation is good for the supply chain because demand will go up. However, all these others put together will let the net benefit be what? Negative. So look at the sustainability competitive strategy. We are trying to match demand with supply. This was done by Christopher in 2005. Now, according to Christopher, if we have a situation where we can locate what our supply chain is, the supply chain characteristics. So our supply chain characteristics are here. What are the most likely issues? So we have demand, our demand characteristics on this side. You know that generally demand is either predictable or unpredictable. Now, if demand is predictable, what? If demand is not predictable, what? Now let's see. How for supply chain can lead us to get short lead times or long lead times. The way we set up our supply chain can make us responsive and have short lead times, or unresponsive by having long lead times. So when we have predictable demand and you are faced with long lead times, then the strategy is what? Lean. What do you do there? You plan and you optimize. Whatever plan you put in place, you have to make sure that that plan is optimized. The systems you have must be optimized. You have to eliminate waste as much as possible because your lead time is long. Allowing waste to exist will consume part of what could have been used to meet that demand while you wait for new supply. But look at situations where we have predictable demand and then short lead times. This one we do what? Kanban. And Kanban is a system that works with what? Continuous replenishment. It's continuous. The replenishment is continuous. The way it works is that if I am the focal firm, all those who supply me have their systems linked to mine. As soon as an order is placed, each of them knows which part of the order they must supply. Then they kickstart the supply. So in no time, everything comes to me, and then I'm able to process the order and meet the order. What if you have unpredictable demand and the characteristics of the supply chain is that it gives you short lead time, or you need a short lead time? Then you have to pursue an agile strategy where you build in flexibility to allow you to be able to respond quickly to situations. So your demand is unpredictable, and yet you are wanting short lead time, or the nature of the demand is such that it cannot allow a long lead time. You have to be agile. You build a system that has parallels, that is flexible enough to deal with whatever unpredictability will happen, and you should be able to respond quickly to the need. Now we have long lead times and unpredictable demand. You have to pursue a hybrid strategy. No singular strategy will work. So you can decouple through postponement. Postponement is a strategy where you delay production until an order is placed. So what you do there is that you are going to intentionally decouple your processes in such a way that it encourages postponement. So I delay, okay, I don't understand the nature of your order. Can you clarify? Can you do this? So I'm finding ways and means of delaying production until I have a complete order. That way, I am able to what? Choke the long lead time. So when demand is placed, I can use postponements. I'm finding ways and means of delaying the satisfaction of this order. But I am engaging. You see, if you are a customer and you place an order and you don't hear anything, that is when you'll be angry. Oh, the company contacted you. Oh, we are not clear about your order. Can you clarify this for us? Can you introduce this? Can you give us this information? All that makes the customer feel that it is not the company that is delaying, but sometimes it is deliberate. You are just deliberately doing it to introduce postponement. So all of that is geared towards matching demand with supply. Now, if you have to reduce transport intensity of the supply chain, then you should know normally, as a result of the global economic growth, international trade will increase. In fact, it has increased and it will continue to increase. That continued upward trend will inevitably lead to products traveling longer distances. Because once economic growth continues to rise, people will become used to demanding certain things that will not just be found in their environment. So this creates the need for the products to cover long distances, and that creates a challenge for what? Transport. So transport intensity is the length or the challenge the transport system has to overcome as a result of distance. So it is key to realize that normally transport intensity does not deteriorate until there's an increase in supply chain activity. So supply chain activity has to increase significantly, and that creates transport intensity, where transport has to do more over longer distance in given time periods. Now, there are key transport trends that are worth taking note of. Logistics networks are requiring restructuring. So there is spatial concentration of production and there is spatial concentration of inventory over a certain space. You see that production companies want to congregate. Typical example, Tema. Because then it becomes easy to provide all the infrastructure that these companies need. Inventory is also concentrating, so that we are beginning to store things like storage companies want to also converge. That is changing the face of the logistics network. Formerly, people were doing it individual, and so it was very scattered. I didn't mind the existence of another company where I am. But today, people are particular about it. And then there's reverse logistics, and it is gaining grounds because of all the green movement. Nobody wants to be cited as producing a product that pollutes the environment. It is only water bottle sachet producers who, at this point, in my opinion, in Ghana, they don't care. They are not taking any steps to ensure that they introduce reverse logistics that will enable them clear the mess the bottles and sachet water things make. And then supply chains are also realigning. There is rationalization of the supply base. That is to say, eventually, everybody wants to have a supply base they can deal with. There is vertical disintegration of production. Now, when we have vertical integration, people are introducing new things. However, they are not introducing the new things in the same place. We have horizontal integration where we add on to products. Vertical integration is when you are introducing products of different flavors or different shapes. Now, this kind of disintegration requires that instead of you having a production system that allows you to produce different varieties, people are setting up separately to produce the different varieties. So the sourcing of supply has to be done over wider geographical areas. And that is also creating the need for a more increased direct delivery. Then we have rescheduling of product flows. Remember, we talked about time compression, where you try to reduce the waste in terms of idle time along the supply chain. Then we are also seeing nominated day deliveries and time delivery systems. People are now choosing same-day delivery, 3-day delivery, 1-week delivery. Of course, it comes at a cost, but people are now choosing it, and therefore, you must also reschedule to be able to do it if you want to survive. If you don't want to survive, that is your business. So what practical steps can organizations take to improve transport intensity of their supply chains? First, you have to review the design and bill of materials, because product design impacts transport intensity through the physical characteristics of the product, its density, the choice of the material, including the packaging material, the ease of recycling, reuse, and end-of-life disposal. After the thing has been used, how are we able to dispose? Because when you don't think of how to deal with all this and create a bill of materials that make it easier, then you will find that the transport system is choked by both forward and reverse logistics. It's choked. People are moving things in, people are having to return things, and that creates a lot of chaos. Then you have to review your sourcing strategy, because you know that many sourcing decisions have led to a migration to low-cost country locations. So, oh, I can find a product. It is cheaper in Cameroon. It is cheaper in Zambia. It is cheaper in Egypt. You have, after that is what? Having to move it. Look at the distance. So, this global kind of sourcing will increase, but it is also increasing the carbon print into total cost of ownership. Because you know all the time, anytime you source globally or you decide to source globally, there are factors that will definitely add to the total cost of ownership. How do I now own? What is the total cost of owning this product? So that I just don't think of the products. I want to buy a computer and then I source it from UK or US. US has 110 power. So when it comes here, I need a step down. All the time, I have to make sure that nobody connects it directly. How much power is it consuming? What and what will it cost me to continue to own this computer that has arrived? And global sourcing brings that in. And so that kind of carbon print, that factor has to be taken into account. This whole business of carbon print is like the footprints it will leave. And that has to be dealt with. That is global sourcing. Therefore, if you want to improve the transport intensity, then you must review your sourcing strategy so that you reduce global sourcing as much as possible. Then you have to review transport options too. Transport modes have different impacts on carbon and other emissions. So, vehicle design and vessel design also influences how these things are, how much emissions are given. Diesel cars give more emissions than petrol cars, even though diesel is also less costly than petrol. So, anytime there is the need to improve efficiency, then don't think of only how to improve your processes. Even the transport options too must be looked at. Is there a way that you can begin to go for vehicles or vessels that are more environmentally friendly, that give less carbon emissions? If you did that, you will be reducing the need to increase transportation. There are also arguments for increasing the size of vehicles or the vessel to achieve low transport intensity per unit. Because if we are able to build bigger cars, then it means we can move at a time. So something that 4 buses will have to carry, 1 bus may carry. That is what gave birth to this journey of buses. So you see Kochi bus, a bus that has 3. It's not an articulated track. It's a bus, but it has 3 compartments. So it's very long and can carry a lot of people at a time. That kind of vehicle reduces transport intensity because the number of buses that have to be used reduces. Then you improve cube utilization of transportation because vehicle capacity is often poorly utilized. So I have a track and then I use half of it. Not because maybe the product I'm carrying is too heavy and therefore when the vehicle is full, it cannot move, but for the sheer fun of it. So we say that once the the transport is not fully utilized, then you create more transport intensity because we need more vehicles, more trucks, more aircraft, more ships to be able to move. However, if we were to optimize the utilization of the transport that we have, then we are able to make sure that at least not too many vehicles are used. Then we can use postponement strategies. I told you, normally you find a way of delaying production or shipment until you have a sizable quantity or until the order is clear. So we say that if generic products can be shipped in bulk from their point of origin and then assembled, customized, or configured for local requirement near the point of use, that is better because that will reduce transport intensity than assembling it from somewhere and bringing it as complete. When we are bringing car parts to come and assemble, we can bring in car parts for 40 cars. But if they are finished cars, because of scratching and other issues, we have to leave spaces. So we may be able to bring in maybe 25 cars for space that we can do 40. That means if you have 40 cars to do and you assemble all of them, you may have to use 2 ships. That increases transport intensity. Then we can reduce, reuse, and cycle. They are the 3 R's of sustainable supply chain management, and they are now receiving a lot of attention because of the green supply chain movement. So supply chain partners are demonstrating how they can reduce the use of materials and as a result reduce transport intensity. So they are reusing things, they are recycling, and all that is reducing the need to bring in new ones. When there's congestion, what is the impact? And you will find that creation of logistics infrastructure has not kept pace with level of economic activity in developing countries. Therefore, there is congestion in the use of logistics infrastructure. And that causes a lot of problems. A lot. But congestion in itself is caused by increased global trade. That's one. A lack of investment in transport capacity and widespread adoption of just-in-time practices. Not in this part of the world, though. Half of the first 2, they apply here. Global trade has increased, but investment in infrastructure capacity has not kept pace. Just in time, just a few companies are participating. But wherever it is, it creates congestion because now we don't store before we move. As soon as we produce, we move. So sometimes you find us moving in smaller batches. Thank you very much. As I have always said, any concern you have, please feel free to contact the e-learning center at elearning@knsp.edu.gh or elearningknsp@gmail.com. You can send them an email.